if there was a 10-year-old kid stood here now and the 10-year-old said to us, said, guys, what do you think I should focus on?
I would say two things. One is going back to human skills. Learn how to be a good friend to your friends.
Okay, how do I learn that?
You're going to really need that. How does a 10-year-old learn that, or how do you and I learn that?
Both.
A 10-year-old learns it, that when they go and have a play date at a friend's house, a smart parent takes away all the phones. I would hate that the 10-year-old has a phone in the first place, but if they do, take away all the phones and make the kids go play. That when they have a fight, the parents make them say sorry, go over to your friend's house and knock on the door, and you're going to say sorry for the thing that you did. We're going to teach kids how to resolve conflict. We're going to teach kids how to pay compliments. We're going to teach kids how to take accountability. And these are all the skills of, well, what did you do wrong versus it's not like, it's not always the school or the teacher. Maybe your kid is disruptive, And so accountability is a real thing. And so I think if we teach those things to 10-year-olds and to adults, I think it makes for a better society. And the other thing is go learn a real skill. And I don't mean like that, prompting isn't a real skill. That's not what I mean. It's what I said before, which is it's the excruciating, what makes great relationships great is not that you get along all the time. The best marriages, the best relationships, they're not absent of conflict. It's they know how to resolve conflict peacefully. By the way, I believe in world peace. I don't believe in a world without conflict. I believe a world in which we can resolve our conflict peacefully without the need to go to war to resolve conflict. This is why I like democracies, because democracies can solve conflict without bullets. So the human skills one, but I say a real skill mean go do something difficult. Build something, design something, imagine something, write something. And by the way, I'm totally fine even if you plug it into ChatGPT and say, tell me what's wrong with this. Your grammar's all screwed up, And like I said, I am smarter because I did it. The reason I'm more confident than when I was younger. And I think that's one of the things people talk about, you get wise with age, you have more confidence as you get older. And yes, that's all true. And there's multiple reasons for it. But I think one of the reasons is the things that are happening to me now, I've gone through those things before. They were scary and kept me up at night the first time. And now I know how to do it. I'm not afraid of it anymore. And so I think what happens as you gain experience is you lose fear. And if ChatGPT or whatever AI product we use does everything for us, I think you just end up scared.
One of the things that I'm contending with at the moment, with this new technology that's arrived, being an entrepreneur, seeing this huge opportunity, thinking about the dot-com boom and all the great opportunity that created, people talking about the age of abundance and all these things, is I'm contending with the question on a personal level, which is, when is enough enough? And maybe this question is more pertinent now than ever in a world where creating stuff, building stuff, starting a company, launching a book, the cost of creating these things, whether they're good or not so good, has gone to basically zero.
Yep.
So we can all theoretically, from our computers now, become movie directors and authors and software developers. And so with this possibility, opportunity, and the thing we need to deploy is intention. What do I do? What is the thing that's going to lead me to happiness? Do I pursue all of these things and start building and creating and running off down that path to climb some ladder? Or do I take a second? When is enough enough? And as an entrepreneur who is in this moment, has a lot of resources, could roll the dice, could start all these new companies, could do all of these things. When is enough enough?
Now. Right, there's something to be said for gratitude. And if you want to make it money, we know the data on this, right? I think once you reach, I can't remember the number, it's $70,000 a year of income. When you're talking about money, you can't buy happiness. It absolutely buys happiness up to a certain level, which is survival and then a little bit more, But once you reach a certain level, there is no discernible increase in happiness that comes with money. Now, what money buys is options, What money buys is time, Those things are true. And you said it, some of the people that you and I know who have made generational wealth, they're not discernibly happy. The ones that are happier were happy before they made the money. And the ones who thought the money would buy them happiness, or worse, the money took away their purpose, because when they made the money, they were driven by something that they accidentally made the money. They built businesses those were their passions and their cause. And then the money came and they weren't building the thing anymore. And, this is the difference. It's like, why this is really interesting. It also gets to the question is, why is it that small companies are more innovative than big companies, right? Like, you think about it. When you say, what's the secret for innovation? Well, you want to have resources, you want to have great people, and you want to have great market opportunities, and then you can have great ideas. Okay, so big companies have tons of money. They have all the best people. They have mature marketplaces that people generally know who they are, and they're the least innovative organizations on the planet, right? Then you have little companies that have no money. They're bootstrapping it. They don't have enough people. Nobody knows who they are, and there's shit market conditions, and yet they're more innovative. And then big companies innovate by buying the little companies. Mm-hmm. That's basically what happens. Your exit, big company kind of innovates. They just bought you, right? Why is that? Why is that the rule? And so it goes directly to this, I think. I think the reason is because when you're small, your ambitions are bigger than the resources you have to achieve those ambitions. Mm-hmm. Every small business has outsized ambitions, like beyond objectively stupid. Like, you look at what they have and what they've got, and they tell you where they're going to be, and you're just like, no. And yet some of them do. And I think the problem with big companies is their ambitions are well within their capabilities, their resources. In other words, their vision isn't big enough. Mm. And I think your vision has to be bigger than the amount of money, resources, and intelligence that you have to achieve that. And what that produces is creativity. And so it goes right back to this, which is if we can do so much with AI, then we need bigger visions. And so when you ask me, how do you find happiness? I think that we need to set our sights on things that are bigger than finite success. And I think we do need a gratitude practice, regardless of how little or how much you have. To be grateful for what you do have is a profound impact. I went through this with the LA fires. Right? I was very lucky that my house survived and I didn't have to get evacuated, but the evacuation zones were getting closer and closer. And two things happened that were profound that live with me now. One which is resolvable and one which is unresolvable. We were all obsessed with this app called Watch Duty, which is how we tracked the fires. It basically took all the publicly available information and put it in one place in a really amazing way. Right? Started by this amazing entrepreneur named John Mills. And we were all obsessed with Watch Duty. We all were on this app the whole time. And one of the things we were watching was the wind. Because if the wind shifted, it could profoundly impact your life. And I remember having this experience, like we were all watching the wind, and the wind went away from me. And I thought, oh, thank God. And in that moment, I knew that somebody was looking at the app going, oh God, no. And it's not like service where I'll eat a little less so that somebody can eat more. Or I'll give up some of my income so that somebody has. It's not one of those. I don't want my house to burn down so somebody else's house doesn't burn down. And I had to live with this paradox of how unfair the world is, that simultaneously my relief and good news was somebody else's stress and bad news. And there was nothing I could do to change that. So that paradox is horrible. And it was right in front of me. So that's one. But it's the second part, which is, the evacuation zones were coming a little closer, and they were one zone away from where I live. And we didn't know if we were going to be woken in the middle of the night with an alarm to evacuate. We didn't know. And so I had to go through the process of packing up my car and making my go bag. And I put as much stuff in my car as I could. And I had to, we all play that game. It's like, if there's a fire and you have to run out and grab two things, what would you grab? I had to do that, right? A lot of people in LA had to do that. Right? You actually had to make the decisions. What am I going to take and what am I going to leave behind? And I found myself bringing things that I never thought were important to me. And I found myself leaving things behind that I thought I would take. But the one thing that was amazing was stuff that I couldn't fit, but I still had love for, like my favorite painting in the world. It's just, I couldn't fit it in my car. I stood there in front of it and I said, thank you. And I said, goodbye. And it was like saying goodbye to a loved one. I hear this, somebody loses a parent. They go, look, it was awful. And, he suffered on his deathbed, but I'm glad I was with him to say goodbye. And it was the most amazing thing to have gratitude for something that I don't want to lose, but accepted that I might. And it's made me a lot more disconnected from my material things, especially the things I said goodbye to, because I've already said goodbye to them. I just sold some of my art for charity, and people said, "How did you love your art?" I'm like, "I know, it's like my art's like my babies." Like, how did you choose? And I said, "I've already said goodbye to everything here. I did it months ago." You know? And I think this idea of gratitude for what we have, but also like, you're going to lose your parents. All of us will lose our parents. Hopefully, they don't never have to say goodbye to us. But if things go well, we're going to have to say goodbye to our parents. And we can't be angry about it. We want to say thank you for the times we had. And I think to have that level of appreciation for everything in our lives, how temporary all of this is, I think it makes you happier. I know it sounds, it makes you happier to just look at someone and be grateful. You know, failed relationships. You could be angry at the other person, or you can be grateful for the lessons they taught you or for the good times you had. And I think to change our minds to gratitude, and you can, you know, it's a little bit, you know, hippy-dippy to have a gratitude practice, and that's fine. You know, if that's your thing, lie in bed every night or keep a journal and just say the things you're grateful for. But I don't know if it works without an evacuation zone approaching. I don't know. But to go around your home and just say thank you to the things that you like is a weird thing. How many of us, when was the last time you called a friend out of the blue and just said, "Thanks for being my friend"? Like, "Hey, just wanted to call and just tell you I love you, just tell you thank you. And, you know, that's all. No, just 2 minutes. Just want to say thank you for being my friend."
I think if I said that to one of my best friends, they'd think I was losing my mind or something, or that something was wrong. They'd be so concerned because it's such an unusual thing for me to have
Okay,
done.
so you can do it this way. So I had a guest on the podcast, and he came up with this thing that is so outside of my personality, but I'm going to try it.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Then you can do that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm new to this. You know, I know for years people have been like, "You should have a gratitude practice and keep a gratitude journal." And I tried it. I was like, okay, I'm grateful for my sister, grateful for for my family, grateful for my friends, grateful for the life that I live. All right, good night. All right, next day. I'm grateful for my sister, grateful for my family, grateful for my friends, you know, and I found it so repetitive that I was like, is this worth it? Like, sure, like every now and then something was different and new. And I've come to the conclusion, like, if it's the same 3 things every single day, good.
I was thinking about this a lot the other day when someone asked me, think about all the people in your life and imagine if they were sick, and imagine if you had $1 billion in your bank and the $1 billion could cure their sickness. Like, who would you cure it for? Would you spend $1 billion to cure your girlfriend's sickness, your mother's sickness, your father's sickness, your whatever, even if it was the risk to them was low? And you would. I'd give every penny I had to cure an illness that my girlfriend had, even if the risk was low. And as I was thinking through that, I was like, but then if you look at my calendar and how I'm allocating my time against these individuals and against my priorities, there's a real imbalance here. And over the last couple of weeks in particular, I've been on a bit of a journey of realizing just how important 4 or 5 people in my life are. And how much I neglect them.
Yeah, I mean, like, of course. I mean, only when it's you're right. Like, which is, if you say give $1 billion and you can cure this disease that affects, 2 million people, 10 million people, you'd be like, I'll give some money, right? But if it was one family member, you would exhaust every resource. You would quit your job. You would do everything you can
for a 1% chance.
For a 1% chance. Yeah. And people do. They quit their jobs so many charities have been started because my father died, my mother died, my sister died, my brother died, and now I've devoted my life to right? Mm-hmm. Like literally that's the reason. And it's because it's personal. Of course, that makes sense. It's why are some entrepreneurs good and some entrepreneurs bad? Well, how personal is the thing that you're working on to you? Because then I only like the entrepreneurs that I love, I want to know that they are solving a problem that they struggled with, or that somebody they love struggled with, or something, if they read an article in a magazine and thought this is a great market opportunity, there is no passion there. That is driven by money and power only. I want to know somebody that it's so deeply personal to them that they will stop at nothing. They will run through a brick wall and find every creative solution. And it goes right back to the small company versus big company. It's passion and a vision that is bigger than the resources that I have. Which, I had a conversation with somebody recently, actually, where they wanted to, it was a business problem, and they wanted to change the goals. And I said, we can't just change the goals because they're difficult, so we might miss the goal. It's true. Yes, we have a very aggressive goal, and the likelihood of us hitting it is incredibly low, but why would we lower it? And they said to me, I don't like to fail, they said. I don't like to fail, and I know you don't either. And I said, that's where you're wrong. That's where you're wrong. I have spent most of my life a failure, and I'm very comfortable being a failure. And I think of myself not as a success. I think of myself as a failure. And that's because my ambitions are bigger than my skills or my ability to achieve those ambitions. And so almost everything I've done, with a couple of exceptions, have fallen short of what I had hoped for. I'm very comfortable with that. Because failing at 80% is really much better than succeeding at 30%. And I think this idea of fear of failure and embracing failure, I don't want to fail, but I think it's important to have dreams that are beyond your skills or your resources, because that's where creativity comes from. That's where resourcefulness comes from. When you go, how am I going to figure this one out? And you told me the stories of your own team. It's the resourceful ones. And now we go back to AI. AI is not going to figure that out, right? There's data on this. I have actually never thought about this. This is good. There was a book called, it was The Wisdom of Crowds. I think it was that one. I think it was The Wisdom of Crowds by James Surowiecki, where people with experience knew what to do versus people who were just trained. So I'll give you the example. And again, I might have the book wrong, but I remember the case. So there was a bunch of firemen fighting a fire in wildfires, right? And the wind picked up and the fire was coming really fast towards these firemen. True story. And they all started running for their lives as this fire was approaching them unbelievably quickly. But the problem was, if they looked ahead, there was a small hill, which means you're going to slow down because you can't run fast up a hill. And this fire is coming fast, right? The senior guy on the team started screaming, "Get down, get down, get down." And they all ignored him. They were all running for their lives. And he just stopped running and got down and put his hands over his head and just lay in a ball. And the fire was going so fast that it blew right over him. And it caught up with the other guys and burned them all to death. Now, they didn't teach them that in fire school. It was accumulated knowledge of wisdom that came from experience, that he knew the right thing to do in the moment. He was able to read the tea leaves in a way, and his gut, whatever that means, his gut said the right thing to do is to drop down, you'll be okay. And this is why, I'm going to sound like a broken record, the importance of doing the work yourself, of writing the book, painting the painting, choreographing the dance, composing the symphony, building the business, having the difficult conversations, stumbling and bumbling, right? The reason for it, let's say you have a fight with your girlfriend. You don't want to be in a fight. You don't like being in a fight. You want to do the right thing. So you go to ChatGPT and you be like, my girlfriend and I had a fight. This is what the fight was about. Okay? I think I did some stuff wrong. I think she did some stuff wrong. This is exactly what happened. Tell me what to do. And you go, babe, I just want you to know I want to take full accountability. I'm really sad that this happened, and I want you to know that I care about this relationship. And she says to you, did you get this answer from ChatGPT? And you go, I did. How's that going to go? Right? Now, you did everything right. You did everything right. You did everything right. But for the fact, and it goes right back to what you said, which is it removed the humanity, it removed the personality, it's artificial, it's fake. It's everything you said about the job interview, it's everything you said about all those other things, about all the resumes, all of the pitch decks. It's not you telling me sorry, it's ChatGPT telling me sorry. And even though you went with good intention to get it right, I would rather you get it wrong and bumble and fumble it with me and be like, babe, I don't know how to do this, I'm an asshole, and then she fights with you because you get it wrong and you rumble through it together. And what happens when you come, you've had this happen. I know because I have, and I know everybody has. When you come out of the fight, you're closer. Not because you got it right, because you got it wrong. And if you learn the skill, and you get better and better and better and better, and you do learn the skill of saying the right thing, and you do learn the skill. She knew it wasn't because you asked AI in the moment because you just wanted to resolve the problem and remove the tension. It's because you learned the skill for the time that you don't know when it's going to happen because you're equipped for this relationship. And it's that investment in the relationship rather than trying to transactionally solve the problem before me. And that's the difference. It's infinite versus finite. It's transaction versus, it's destination versus journey. I'm in the journey of this relationship versus I have a destination. I got to solve this problem now. Otherwise, this is going to destroy my relationship. And all of this is coming full circle. And it comes right back to everything we started this. I think it's hilarious that you're having a conversation with me about AI because I'm not an AI expert and I'm not in the AI business. But I am in the humanity business. And I think everything we're talking about from every angle, we're battle testing this idea. And what we can't get away from is human beings really want human beings. And human beings really want human experiences. And human beings really want things made by human beings. And we are not only okay with, we want imperfection. Because imperfection is the sign of human.
I was just thinking about how when I'm in an argument with my partner, if she was perfect, if she was completely composed, if she was looking at me without emotion, without expression, and if she was spewing ChatGPT-like responses back at me, it would be a little bit infuriating, but also it would be completely dehumanizing, as you say. And it's funny how actually, even in conflict, I want emotion, I want imperfection, I want human resonance. So it's interesting because I've been thinking about what my
struggle is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think in our modern day and age, we have underappreciated and underrepresented the value of struggle. And if you ask anybody in their life, tell me about a time in your career where you felt like, boy, this is the most amazing thing I've ever done. I'm so glad I'm a part of this. It's not the big win. It's not the big success. It's not we finished everything on time and under budget. It's, oh my God, this one thing went horribly wrong. Oh my God, it went so badly. And yet the way we came together, the most important thing in my career was when I lost my passion and went into deep depression. Never want to go through that again. Really glad it happened. And all of our relationships, professional, personal, romantic, whatever they are, right? All of our relationships get better when we go through struggle together. And we know the way the human animal works. We know that oxytocin is released when you have shared struggle. That's why when you put people in boot camp and they go through shit together, or there's a natural disaster, all of a sudden, I don't care who you voted for. I saw your house blow down in the tornado. I got you. Don't worry, we're neighbors, right? We can put aside all the rational nonsense, the intellectual nonsense, and at the end of the day, human beings are good at helping human beings.
Struggle also, in many contexts, is the value. So when I think about a Simon Sinek book, the reason why I value it is because I know that Simon Sinek spent years writing that thing and pulling it together. The reason why certain handmade things that we talked about earlier are valuable is because of the pain and the toil that went into them. And when you think about the art world and other creations through history, the value comes from the fact that human beings came together for a prolonged period of time and did something. And actually the investment is the value. The amount that went in the top creates
We're not buying the product, we're buying the story.
Yeah, the Mona Lisa is...
You're not buying the Mona Lisa, you're not buying a piece of art, you're buying the story that goes with the art. The story that it took to create the art, what the artist was going through, what they were thinking. You're not buying my book, you're buying the story of the making of my book.
And the Mona Lisa was stolen from what I understand.
I mean, we don't even know if the one in the Louvre is the real one.
Because I heard much of the reason why the Mona Lisa is so valuable is because at one point it was stolen and then they managed to find it again. And actually it's just a painting, but the story of the
story
painting
is
is worth 100 million, 200 million, whatever.
Whatever. I mean, and so this is what we forget. The reason famous artists are famous is because you buy the story of that artist, not their talent. There's a lot of famous singers and actors and painters, dancers who are a lot less talented than the unknown ones, but you buy into the story. And this is why some celebrities, as much as they talk about the paparazzi and the tabloids, They want to be in the paparazzi and the tabloid. They want the paparazzi to follow them because it keeps their story relevant. It keeps them, they're worth more because they're in the zeitgeist.
Apple know this better than anybody, because you go to an Apple store and they've laid out their products as if it was an art gallery. The 3 feet either side of the iPhone create the impression in my mind that this is a piece of art and there's only one of them. And the fact that they've wasted all this space, which I know real estate costs money and that must have been expensive, pours into the device itself. If I'd gone into an Apple store and there was 1,000 iPhones, like the old electronic stops, all stacked on top of each other, I would assume the iPhone was worth less. But the story, just by the frame in which I see it, means that, oh my God, this thing is...
It's theater.
It looks like one of one.
Yeah, it's theater. And some would call it manipulative, but we want things to feel valuable, not just be valuable, right? I could tell you I've got I found a guy who makes cashmere jerseys, and he uses the exact same cashmere as, Loro Piana, whatever, some fancy ass brand, But the problem is it says like Dave's Cashmere Shop, I could tell you everything about where he sources the cashmere, how he makes it, that's the same everything. And you'd be like, yeah, Dave's Cashmere Shop? Because you're not buying the cashmere, you're buying the brand. Yeah. You're buying the story, you're buying the association. That's why brands have value. Because it's irrational.
Yeah.
And humans are irrational. And that's why companies invest in building brands for the story. And so, yeah, I think I'm, as much as AI scares me, I still believe the thing that the technologists don't appreciate and won't appreciate, and there will be a rebellion, and handmade will become more valuable, and handmade will become more expensive, and people will want to say that. It's like, you had that person write your speech for you? Wait, who did the painting for you? They did it themselves? And I think that's good. It's a pendulum, right? We're going to get enamored with the technology until it's boring.
This also just expands generally. I know this sounds quite big and we're talking about these big things, but just everything that you create, it's very, very tempting at the moment to just create something with AI and throw it up on your website, on your social media pages, or present it to the world, a presentation deck at work. But actually, I'm already noticing I'm attributing huge value and interest in things that I can identify as human made. I had a flashback a second ago as we were talking about this idea of scarcity to one of my favorite brands in the world. It's a clothing brand. And I was obsessed with this clothing brand. I'd spend a huge amount I don't spend money on clothes. I would spend a huge amount of money every time they came out with a new item. One day, the founder of the brand, and everybody knows this brand, he posted a photo from his factory. It was a video. And what I saw in the video was the shirt I was currently wearing as I watched the video in a massive bucket with 4,000 others of the exact same shirt. And in that moment,
fell out of love.
I fell out of love.
Exactly.
Because in my head, I painted this artisan picture of them sewing it. These two guys sewing it in their bedroom and then sending it to me.
It's probably what it was on the ad too.
I think that's what it kind of used to be. So I still had that image,
but it got too big. Yeah. The one thing that I've always understood, this is true for businesses, this is true for absolutely everything. Scale breaks things. Scale breaks things. In the military, they have special forces, special operating forces, Navy SEALs, SAS, all those folks, right? And there's a saying in the special forces that's basically special. You can't scale special, right? So you can take whatever training skills, whatever you have for the special forces, and you give it to everybody. It's not going to work. Special can only be small, and so scale breaks things. Scale always. Microsoft versus Apple. Right? So Apple wanted the highest quality operating system in the world, right? So what did they do? They refused to clone, right? They wouldn't clone their operating system. And they as a result of refusing to do that, they never for years Apple had in the height of the PC wars, maybe 4% of the world's operating systems. Microsoft said, we're happy to clone our operating system. So it was a little bit different on Dell, it was a little bit different on IBM. Wherever you use it was slightly different. And they had 90-something% of the world's operating systems. It's because you have to trade quality for scale. every time. There's a reason why buying fancy goods for a lot of money, because as you said, the way you make things has to change, and you just have to start making them in factories, and you have to scale breaks companies. Think about how beautiful companies are. The number of companies that talk about, oh, our company's like a family. Get to about 150 people, 200 people, get to Dunbar's number, not so much of a family anymore.